It would, okay, it would be live. Just a second, yeah. Okay, Paul, I think we are gonna be live just a while. Okay, hi everyone, how's everything going on at your end? So again, we have actually another session lined up with Mr. Paul. So if you can you see my screen also? Like Paul, can you confirm if I'm visible also or not?
I can see you, Naman. Yep.
Okay, that's good. So I think, let me see also from the audience point of view that people are joining, I think. So we will wait for some time. Okay, I think we are live and things are going well. So Paul, I think we would be starting this session in a while. We will wait for audience to come up and we would be having some setting going on here. And after that, we would try to actually adjust the settings and then we would go ahead with the discussion. So everyone, thanks for joining in. We would be shortly starting up our live session. We have our special guest today, Mr. Paul Turner. He would be addressing about automation cybersecurity today. So just wait for a while.
For sure.
I would be setting up the links and everything. Like they would be important for you guys to have a look at that. So just a sec. Okay. I think there's a lot of audience here. So I would start with the discussion. So we have our links updated about registration about that webinar. The link is already provided into the description of the video. All those folks who watch the video from the start to the end, they would be only entitled actually to get in a certificate. So if in the case you are interested to get a certificate of the training, all you have to do is you have to watch this session till then, because your participation would definitely matter. If in the case you're not active, then you would not be definitely eligible for that. Second step you have to do is you have to subscribe to your YouTube channel, turn your notification on. Third step you have to do is you have to be a follower of Instagram account, which is also provided into the description of this video. Along with that, you have to register to the webinar. For this particular webinar, there's a registration link that is also provided into description of the video. So key 4 steps, if in the case you follow that, then you would be entitled for this particular webinar certificate. So without further ado, I will invite Mr. Paul to start a discussion about cybersecurity. And cybersecurity for automation is really vital. I'm doing my job in domain of OT cybersecurity, but Mr. Paul Turner have a vast experience about commissioning, and he would be talking about importance of the cybersecurity in automation and electrical systems. And he would be also addressing some other key concepts which are very important, why it's important to have a knowledge related to automation. So over to Paul to talk further about that.
Thanks, Noman, and thanks for this great opportunity to share some important information on cybersecurity with your audience. I'm sure everyone will find this discussion very helpful, as cybersecurity is becoming more and more a relevant topic for discussion these days. As our projects get more complex and more connected, cybersecurity is definitely an issue to address in our projects. So for anyone that is new to some of the discussions we've been having, my name is Paul Turner. I'm a professional electrical engineer and a registered project management professional. So I've been working on a lot of complex projects for the last 20 years in the hydroelectric generation field, HVDC, several aerospace projects. I'm currently working on a wastewater treatment plant and have some upcoming HVDC projects over the next few years as well. The topic for discussion is cyber compliance. We're going to focus on NERC compliance. NERC is the cybersecurity guidelines and standards that govern in North America how our systems are cyber secure and compliant to NERC. So NERC stands for the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, and NERC really provides the set of NERC SIP standards governing how facilities are to be cyber compliant from a physical perspective as well as from a cyber perspective. So what is a NERC SIP asset? SIP stands for Critical Infrastructure Protection, and it's really any device that has an addressable port. Some devices would only have a serial port. Think of like your printer port on your computer. That's not addressable, but anything that has typically a LAN port and has an IP address and therefore routable traffic, any device that has that would be considered in scope for NERC SIP. Even if the devices are connected or not, if it does have an addressable port, that makes it in scope for NERC SIP. And not only is this applicable for connections that go off-site from facilities, even if there's strictly an internal network within a security perimeter, any networks need to be cyber secure so that nobody can get access to systems and cause interference with the operation of critical assets. I'll highlight some of the important NERC SIP reliability standards. There's several standards, but these are some of the more important ones. So SIP 005-6 covers your electronic security perimeter. So this is using firewalls, routers, whatever digital means to block and control traffic in and out of networks. So this prevents no externally routable connections to our networks, therefore limits the ability for people to get into networks and cause interference. SIP 008-6 covers the incident reporting and response planning. So when an incident occurs, how is it reported to NERC SIP? Some reporting is required from a self-reporting perspective, and there's a longer timeline that's permitted to submit those types of incidents. But other types of incidents require 24-hour reporting, where if there's a breach and it's significant, there's a reporting process of how that is reported to NERC SIP to let others know. So the standard kind of governs what kinds of incidents are reported, how they're reported, and the time frame of when breaches need to be reported. SIP 011-2 covers the cybersecurity of our systems. So this is where the bulk of the effort is. This is performing all the port scans within a connected system, making sure that ports that are open are actually needed to be open, or a business justification of why they need to be open, getting all the screenshots of security software installations, software upgrades, and current configuration of the system demonstrating that it is in fact cyber compliant, documenting all the firmware versions, all the software versions, and any evidence that's needed to prove that your systems are NERC SIP compliant. Along with the standards, NERC also provides a system categorization. So in your bulk electric system, the cyber system categorization will impact the number of tasks, the amount of evidence that you need to gather to demonstrate cyber compliance. So starting with the high impact rating, this would be for your critical infrastructure. This would be like your central control system, your backup control center, facilities that if they're interfered with, they can severely impact the operation of the facilities. So that's the high impact rating. In the middle is the medium impact rating. These would be facilities that are critical to operation of the system, but maybe not as critical as something like a central control center. This would be in-service generation assets. So if you've got a hydroelectric generation station or a nuclear facility, or a facility that is critical to providing power to infrastructure, this would be rated as a medium impact. This also covers things like transmission facilities that are operated at higher than 500 kilovolts, those critical transmission lines that move power from one area to the other. HVDC systems would be in the medium impact rating. Any transmission identified as essential to nuclear facilities, the critical infrastructure to move power around would be medium impact. Then there'd be also a low impact rating. These would be transmission lines that are important, but maybe they've got a secondary route to reroute power if they're lost. So while they're not single point failure, they still are critical, and they would be deemed as a low impact rating. And whether your systems are rated high, medium, or low determines the number of tasks you have to execute to demonstrate cyber compliance, as well as the evidence to be gathered to prove cyber compliance. So there's two aspects that really you have to complete by in-service date to demonstrate that the system is cyber compliant. There's a set of NERC SIP tasks, as well as NERC SIP evidence to be gathered. So let's go through the tasks here first. The bulk of the effort will be scanning your network and demonstrating the open and closed ports within your interconnected network, and reviewing all of those to make sure that any ports that are open actually need to be open for the operation of the system, and which ones can therefore be closed to limit any inadvertent access from others into your system. The port scans are performed on the entire network on all NERC SIP assets, and some of these port scans can take quite a while to run, but it's a significant effort and needs to be done to demonstrate the configuration of your interconnected system. Then at the periphery or any control points to access the system, we need to configure all the firewalls, all the routers, and document those firewall rules so everybody understands what they are, how they're limiting traffic in and out of the systems. The firewalls are what we referred to earlier, the electronic security perimeters, your ESP, which is a critical boundary for access in and out of electronic systems. So then from all your port scans, that information needs to be reviewed, and any open ports need to be explained. You need to prepare a business justification of why that port is open, what that port being open actually allows the system to perform. If there's no business justification, then the port should be closed. Now, this can get quite tricky because often you're dealing with vendors, equipment, proprietary manufactured systems, and they don't necessarily want to provide some of that information on why ports are open or closed. Also, they're somewhat hesitant to close a port, not knowing maybe the impact of closing that port if it's going to break the system. So there's a lot of work required to review your open and closed ports with all parties involved to make sure that the system actually is or has the right open and closed ports for the system to function, but on the other hand, to prevent people from accessing your system. Throughout commissioning and even after systems are in service, there's constantly updated drivers, software, firmware that are being issued. And certainly at in-service date, all security patches need to be applied to ensure that the system is most up to date and addressing any known vulnerabilities in the system. All those software patches need to be reviewed and updated at in-service date, and even after in-service date, any new patches, software, firmware, whatever is updated needs to be monitored and applied to the system in a timely manner. The other part, or the bulk of the effort, is related to NERC SIP evidence. And this can take a significant amount of effort during commissioning to gather all your NERC SIP evidence. That can involve taking screenshots of software and firmware versions. This would include all of your PC-based systems or your Apple-based systems, whatever computer infrastructure you're using. But this would also include any, say, like a touchscreen visual HMI display on an HVAC or a pump or a VFD, whatever kind of controller you have there. You may take a picture or a screenshot to show that the most current version of software, the most current version of firmware is installed and up to date. Any security patches that are installed, that needs to be documented with a screenshot. Your virus detection software, you need to demonstrate that that's up to date and current. This can generate mountains and mountains of documentation to demonstrate cyber compliance. Some of this information gets submitted to regulators at in-service date. As well, some of it the owner will hold on to for future audits to demonstrate that systems are compliant. some of the ability to take these screenshots or document the systems can only be done with the system offline. So during commissioning is when you want to gather some of that evidence rather than having to wait till the next maintenance period to take an outage and gather some of that evidence. So it's a bit of an upfront effort to gather some of this stuff to demonstrate compliance. So in the last project I worked on, there was over 1,200 in-scope NERC SIP assets. You can imagine that this is a huge effort to document each of these 1,200 assets to complete the tasks and demonstrate compliance through evidence. Without exception, all of the NERC SIP tasks need to be complete on every device. So the tasks are the port scans, closing ports, and performing the business justifications on each of those items. We need to complete all those tasks because that is securing our cyber systems. We need to confirm that each device is in fact configured properly so that it is in fact NERC SIP compliant. However, on projects that have thousands of devices that are in scope for NERC SIP, it can be a huge task to gather all that evidence. One thing we found was helpful is that some of those devices might be similar. Say you have 20 devices that are the same. You need to complete all tasks on those 20 devices, but we used one of those 20 devices as a typical device and gathered all the evidence for that device and then said the other 19 devices are the same. So that helped to manage this overwhelming task a little bit, to use a typical device and gather the evidence for that device, and then by similarity say that it's the same for other devices. Another important aspect to manage is passwords for controller-based devices or PC systems, whatever login credentials people need to get access to some of these systems. When they arrive from vendors or manufacturers, they may have a factory default password as admin or 12345, which is fine when they arrive at site and they're being installed, even for certain aspects of commissioning, because there's so many people involved. A generic password or factory defaults make it easier for a bunch of people to get access to the system. But when we get to connecting to already in service NERC SIP compliant assets, we need to be, all those passwords needs to be changed, and the new passwords need to be documented and controlled so that not just anybody can log into these devices and make changes. So at in-service date, passwords are all reset. Those passwords are kept secure by operations, the owner, and only permitted people can get access to those passwords to be able to log into devices. So then password management, you can have hundreds of passwords on a bunch of different systems, and you definitely need a system to be able to manage all the passwords for a particular system. The process of NERC SIP compliance can generate an immense amount of data. During the project and after the project, this data needs to be protected. So during the project, for example, during commissioning, all this evidence is being gathered to demonstrate compliance. This evidence isn't necessarily placed into, say, your project management data system, because lots of people would have access to that. The point is to share the project management systems with lots and lots of people so that everybody has access to the information that they need to do their job on the project. Well, the NERC SIP evidence is different, is only certain people can have access to that data. So all of the data that's produced from your evidence gathering tasks need to be in a secure location where only people that are authorized or are permitted to have access to NERC SIP data can get access to that repository. Where it gets tricky is some of the project files, some of the project drawings data that's generated does contain NERC SIP information. Any drawing that contains an IP address, well, then that drawing therefore is NERC SIP data and must be controlled. So that can get tricky, is how do you manage a subset of your project files that are NERC SIP compliant without allowing or restricting people to have access to the other project information that isn't NERC SIP compliant. So you definitely need a process to manage and control the subset of drawings that are deemed NERC SIP, so that not everybody has access to NERC SIP data. The sequence of NERC SIP compliance during commissioning can get a little bit tricky because there's a lot of work to complete in parallel with commissioning to demonstrate your NERC SIP compliance. So how can this be accomplished during on-site commissioning? I've seen in instances where the commissioning team is also tasked with gathering the NERC SIP evidence, and that really becomes pretty overwhelming because the commissioning team has their functions to perform already for testing the equipment, and to also take on NERC SIP compliance information gathering can become quite overwhelming. What really needs to happen is there's a separate NERC SIP team that's kind of working in tandem with the commissioning team, going through and gathering the evidence, performing the tasks as items are being commissioned. That way that there's kind of one group that's kind of just ahead of the next, another group following, that the work can be sequenced as these two important functions take place in parallel. To help manage that a little bit, there is 2 milestones to consider when in-scope assets need to be NERC SIP compliant. Really, there's the 2 milestones are when you first are testing some of this equipment, there's a point in time when you're testing things standalone, where they're not connected to any other in-service NERC SIP assets, which is fine, then things are a bit more relaxed. But there's a point in time where in order to complete further testing, you need to be interconnecting your new NERC SIP assets with existing assets. And that at that point in time, you are going to want to make sure that a lot of your tasks and evidence has been gathered demonstrating NERC SIP compliance. But then the second milestone to consider, which is the critically important one, is when your assets are placed into commercial service. That's the point in time where you definitely need to be NERC SIP compliant. And balancing those 2 milestones can be a little bit tricky, but through a proper sequence of commissioning and NERC SIP tasks, you can manage those 2 critically important milestones. Now, once you get to NERC SIP compliance, that's a huge milestone to get to, but there's lots more work still after the in-service date to maintain NERC SIP compliance. When the owner takes over the systems and they're NERC SIP compliant and in-service date, the owner still needs to be able to maintain and demonstrate compliance, that as things are changing, the system is still meeting NERC SIP compliance. This is a huge ongoing effort and shouldn't be overlooked, as it'll really take a dedicated team to maintain NERC SIP compliance. For example, as software patches are being issued, think of your MS Windows projects, computer systems. Microsoft is constantly updating and issuing security patches. Well, each of those security patches needs to be monitored and reviewed to ensure that they're not going to break your system or disable a critical port for function of the system. So there needs to be a group or a team at least reviewing the software patch to make sure it's applicable. And there's a 30-day time frame to actually implement that software patch, so that the time frame is actually pretty tight to be notified of the security patch, review it, and install it in the system. There's other upgrades, firmware, software updates. They're regularly being issued, and any tasks that need to be completed, any new evidence that needs to be gathered, needs to be ongoing after in-service date to ensure that your systems maintain cyber compliance. So that was a bit of an overview of NERC SIP compliance, and I'll be happy to take any questions. But really, NERC SIP compliance is a significant effort, and it can be a costly endeavor. But if the systems that are being implemented are high, medium, low risk, then this is what is mandated that must be done in order to ensure that our systems are NERC SIP compliant. So there's definitely a lot of planning required in advance to ensure that systems get to NERC SIP compliance at in-service date, as well as planning to make sure that they stay compliant once systems go into service. So we'll get into some questions here shortly. I'm happy to take your questions. I hope we've got a bunch of good questions. Noman will let me know. I just wanted to highlight that Noman mentioned at the beginning here some important items that the group participating can get access to as part of participating in this webinar. We'll review this a bit at the end of our live questions here, but like Noman mentioned, there's a webinar certificate that's available, a copy of the slides, as well as enrollment in my 3-day mini course. And all these items, plus the items that Noman has mentioned, can be accessed at www.commissioning.vip. So I'll turn it maybe back to you, Noman, and we can cover some good questions.
Thank you so much, Paul. It was amazing discussion, and I really want to thank you again for sparing some moments and show and share some actually valuable information, because right now in these days, especially after COVID era, OT cybersecurity, especially automation and electrical cybersecurity, is a really very vital skill. Even I've been interviewed 4 or 5 companies, and it is even paying more than like what you get in automation. I will not say to everybody to stop learning automation, because it's going to be first step for you to get into OT cybersecurity. Because if you don't know automation, then learning into or getting in cybersecurity would be difficult, because if in the case you are aware about communication protocols, if in the case you are aware about which sort of the ports are required for different type of the communications, like Modbus requires different port, Pi system requires different port. That would be the first step to learn automation. Then second thing is good to have for sure like OT cybersecurity trainings, electrical and automation cybersecurity trainings, because right now this skill set is really short and people are willing to pay you any amount. I'm working in OT cybersecurity domain in these days, like so I know like how much valuable it is, and Paul have a huge expertise in that domain as well. So Paul, what's your review before actually we talk about further about that? We take on the questions. I want to say I want to get in your reviews, like what is the impact of cybersecurity, what is the impact of COVID-19 on cybersecurity, especially electrical and automation cybersecurity. And even when you connect it to the cloud, different digitalization services also requires cybersecurity. So what's your review? How much is the impact of COVID for this particular specific role?
COVID-19 has certainly made some significant challenges for commissioning our systems. Last year, pretty much overnight, everybody was working remotely. Well, the project can't stop, and that instantly requires people working from, in our case, all over Canada that still need to be able to log into the systems and commission them. Commissioning would typically be an on-site, hands-on role, but COVID-19 has presented some challenges in being able to do that. So cybersecurity has become even more critical to allow someone across the other end of the country to be able to log into our PLC systems and perform any changes, do any testing, add any upgrades, while allowing those people in, but still preventing others from having access to the systems and causing problems. So pretty much overnight, cybersecurity became even more critical. It was always critical as our projects continue to get more complex, and there's more and more bad actors in the world that are trying to disrupt critical facilities, but it became acutely important during those first COVID-19 days to be able to set the systems up and allow the project to continue. Yeah,
right. So most of the questions are related to the link. Link is provided into description of this particular live. So you have to find the link into the description. Last line on the description is all about the sign up link, but make sure you have to follow 4 steps in order to get that certificate. Step number 1 is you have to be a subscriber of this YouTube channel and your notifications are on. Step number 2, you have to make sure that there's a sign up link. You have to register there on that particular link in order to get a free copy of this slides and certificate. Step number 3, you have to follow us on Instagram. And step 4, which is very important, that you have to be there in this session live till the end in order to get that certificate. So I will get into your questions. If you guys have any questions related to discussion we had today, So please feel free to write in the comments, because your participation is a key factor. So I will be getting into the questions now. Most of the questions are related to link. I need and explain about made professional programming. And okay. In Canada, which college is best to study PLC automation for international students, so that they can start career in automation? So what's your answer about that? I think you know better in that regard. What's the best institute in Canada?
I don't know if I could say there's a best institute. Some of the specialized training I find isn't necessarily available from a particular institute, because a lot of systems are so specialized. The best place to go for some of this training is, in fact, online. Like, I know Noman offers some fantastic training opportunities related to detailed PLC systems. Check online, because that seems to be where the most advanced, up to date, and cutting edge training is available for these types of systems. When you go to more of an institution, I find that it's more legacy training, and I don't want to say it's outdated, but it's kind of hard to keep up with the evolving technology. That's the evolving technology is really captured in online systems, online training, and that's where I would recommend, honestly, to go search out the specialized training that you can't necessarily find locally.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for recommendation. And I just want to add in a few things. If you guys wanted to get into commissioning trainings, I would recommend Mr. Paul, because I have attended one of the sessions from him, one of the course, actually, complete course. It was amazing. The information captured there is, you can see the experience converted into that course. Like, he have shared literally everything. So if in the case you wanted to get in automation commissioning training, or any other, like maybe if you're a mechanical engineer and you want to get in commissioning information related to mechanical, his courses are available. So I would definitely highly recommend you to have a look at that, because the effort he actually put in, it's his experience that is converted into that course. So I would definitely recommend Mr. Paul's course related to automation commissioning, and the different other commissioning courses. And Mr. Paul actually will also explain you what are the offerings that he have in his institution, and what is his linkage with the Engineering Institute of Canada. If you can elaborate that one, that would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks, Noman. Commissioning is one of those things where it is quite difficult to find that sort of training locally. So that's what I've put together, is an online offering to provide that specialized training. We offer, of course, the 3-day mini course that you'll get access to at the link that's on the screen there. That's a free course. But after that, there's opportunities to dive even deeper into the world of commissioning, where we offer discipline-specific training related to mechanical commissioning, electrical commissioning, and automation commissioning. We've also got some really detailed upcoming courses related to operational readiness, and hopefully a cybersecurity training course as well that we'll be working on in the future. That's slotted for development in a bit. The world of commissioning requires lifelong learning, but sometimes when you're getting into commissioning, it can seem kind of daunting as where do you start? There's just an immense amount of information to pursue, and the training courses that we offer really are that starting point to get you introduced to commissioning, get you familiar with topics, the industry best processes that are required to commission today's complex systems. And it's a great starting point for anybody that's interested in getting into the world of commissioning.
So, Paul, have you started any classroom-based training? There was a question related to that. Do you guys have any classroom training there in Canada?
We do periodically offer in one-on-one training courses. It hasn't been classroom-based, but in the last little while during this COVID-19 world, it's been virtual training. We don't currently have any availability for that type of training right now, but the great thing about the training courses that we do offer is that everything's available when you need it, from wherever you want to watch it, that you can go through our training courses at your own pace. I know that commissioning individuals are extremely busy, and we wanted to give that flexibility or opportunity to take training when people have time to take it and from wherever they can take it, if they're on the job site on a 2-week rotation or whatever is required. So the flexibility is there.
One thing I want to add, like guys, I think there are 60 people watching us and there are only 36 likes. So please make sure that you're liking these videos. If in the case you hit the like button, that would be a motivation, a booster for us to come again with some experts from industries and talk further about that. So your likes really matters. It is a motivation for me. We are not doing this thing for money thing, because this is really a different ball game. This is all about sharing you, giving you valuable information for all those folks who can't pay actually for the courses. So this is the continuity, effort in that direction. We are trying to keep that effort alive. So your likes really matters a lot. So if there's 64 people liking, watching us, so I really appreciate if there would be a 64 likes, because like would be nothing. It would be just a motivation for Mr. Paul and me also, so that we can assure from your likes that you are liking that our session. So apart from it, I want to add that there was a question already been asked, that how to get in automation training being based in Canada. So if you wanted to get in a PLC, DCS, SCADA, and HMI training, we have a different and unique training as compared to any other training that exists. We only train people live, like you are having a session with us on Zoom or any other, Teams, and we would be doing everything in front of you. And there are two different modes. One is the private sessions and one is group bridge stations are our till December. We are occupied till December. There are a few slots that are available for private classes, and that would be occupied in coming days. So what happened, why our private sessions are unique, what we do, we share the screen and we would share the information, whatever the practical things are there. We would not cover anything which is not related to the job that you have to do in future. So we would cover only those information which are required, which are the valuable, which is not outdated, which is something that will definitely bring a value for you when you go ahead and join any automation job. So all practical things, not theoretical things. I'd really hate theory unless it's very important, and that's the motivation that we have. So we will train you, and then after that we would assure that you are getting it. How we would assure it? Very simple. We would ask you to share the screen and do the same thing in front of instructor. For instance, I'm your instructor. I would ask you to share your screen and do the thing which we have done it a while ago. So if in the case you are not able to, or you are not putting effort, you would be captured right away. So there's no escape in that particular training mode. So that's more better than being in a classroom, because in a classroom, you got in one mentor and mentor is sharing information to thousands of the people. Might be, if it is very short class, there would be 10 to 15 people. The attention level is not that much. So our private session have some post-learning curve also, like what you have to cover some of the information in the learning that would last for 2 or 3 months based on the course that you have selected. Then there would be a post-learning curve also at the end of the sessions. In a post-learning, you would definitely get in some other certification and information that would bring in value. For instance, you learn Delta V DCS immersion, and then you would learn ABB DCS in a post-learning. So that sort of information, that sort of comprehensive training is provided on IT and Automation Academy. If in the case anybody is interested, few slots are available, you can definitely join us. That's the very informative webinar. Thank you so much. Salman Afridi is saying that for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Salman, for being here. And which tips should be considered by the commissioning members to support the cybersecurity during CSU?
The best advice I can give is don't leave this to the last minute. If cybersecurity is only investigated kind of as commissioning is starting, an afterthought makes it a huge scramble to try and catch this up. Really, when you're planning for this, expect it to be a significant effort that's taking place along with commissioning. There has to be time allowed in the sequence to allow the commissioning team to perform their testing activities, but then also have the cybersecurity team follow up shortly behind them to perform the tasks and gather the evidence that the systems are compliant. Don't expect that this is all going to happen, say, during the last month of commissioning. It's a significant effort and definitely needs to have some thought put into it in advance to know that the sequence is going to be successful, that the resources are there to accomplish these tasks. And that can be challenging because really there's very few people that understand this stuff, right? The owner is going to say that they want a cyber secure system, but it's hard to know what that really means and the effort that it's going to take to get there, right? So lots of discussions early in advance to help people understand this level of effort, understand the work that's going to be required to do this, and to ensure that everything's in place, that when that fast-paced commissioning period is taking place, the people are there, everybody knows what they need to do, and they can strictly execute the tasks.
So Shehryar Ahmed is saying that the session is great. Thank you, Shehryar, for liking this session. There's another question. I'm a new learner. I want to know the digital transformation of OT and cybersecurity systems. This is a different question. Do you want to take on? Abdullah is saying that.
The digital transformation, if I understand the question correctly, that's digital transformation is really picking up in rapid pace. Say like 20, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have a lot of these systems in place. We were dealing with older mechanical relay systems, but new systems, say anything in the last decade or so, or even more, everything's being implemented with PLC based systems. And a lot of those older mechanical relay systems are at end of life and are getting replaced or upgraded with new digital based systems. So the digital transformation just continues to rapidly pick up pace. And these, I can't stress enough that these skill sets are so much in demand, as everybody wants to be able to monitor their system using digital systems or remotely operate. And they want them to function, they want them to be cyber compliant, but nobody knows how to do that. So the skill sets of cyber compliance and on PLC based systems are only going to increase in demand. That anybody that has these types of skills is part of a very small set of people really in the world that can actually implement these complicated systems that everybody wants. So definitely to keep up with this digital transformation, get involved in commissioning, get involved in PLC based systems, specialize in cyber compliance, and your skills will be needed for many years to come.
I want to add a few things. As per my past experience, like I've been working with most of my life with automation, PLC, DCS, mostly in DCS systems, and SCADA also. So what happens when I was in this COVID era? I have, because my profile is there on LinkedIn, so some of the recruiters actually get in touch with me from Dubai and different other countries to see. Even from like UK and US, I got a few of messages from recruiters. I had a couple of the interviews. It's a different case. My motivation is all towards now IT and Automation Academy, and I'm focused on that. But I want to share, my core was in automation, but I was getting in most of the calls from OT cybersecurity, and the pace the guys have, it's really, really too much as compared to automation jobs, because skill set is very short. Whatever you ask for it, you would be surprised to get an answer yes. So if in the case you will be getting information related to OT cybersecurity, you are going to be one of the guys which would be really required across the globe. Really. So that's my personal experience in that, because currently I'm working in OT cybersecurity with, I'm providing consultancy services here in Pakistan and Middle East, different companies on that. So yeah, that's my answer about that. If in the case you guys are interested, this is the domain to go. But you have to start with automation, get in information related to protocols, Profibus, SPI systems. You have to learn on Modbus. You have to understand OPC. You have to understand MQTT. You have to understand OPC UA, OPC DA, and all that sort of protocols are really important. And then you have to slowly grab information in cybersecurity. So in cybersecurity, specifically what is required for OT system. Cybersecurity for IT is different, for OT is different. So when you get into that, you will get to know, once you know that information, people will definitely go for you. Not you would not be chasing people. People will be chasing you if in the case you know that. So that's the step-by-step process. And in the case you want that, you have to do that step-by-step. So that's my advice. If anybody is interested in OT cybersecurity, then this is the right time. Go for it. Unless you got in this field also saturated, you got in more people here. So that's my advice. So we will get into the next question. Paul, do let me know if in the case you are busy, then we would shorten our questions and we would end up the session, because I think I have a time for 20 more minutes.
Yep, I got 20 more minutes. Let's see if we can tackle some more questions here.
Okay. Okay, for a wireless transmitter, how can it be secured?
That's a good question. Do you want to take that one, Naman?
Yeah, it's fine. If in the case you want to talk about it, it's fine. If you want me to talk about it, it's fine.
Sure, you go ahead.
Okay, when we talk about wireless transmitters, it depends which protocols it is using actually. So the cybersecurity is definitely be on every layer. So you got in Nozomi solutions. If in the case you want to explore that, that's the best solution for that kind of environment. Nozomi actually take care about even down the layer devices like your instruments. So I would definitely highly recommend you guys to have a look at the Nozomi solution, Nozomi Guardian especially, which is one of the best solutions that take care of all OT environment. Like it start from top the layer, your servers which are actually connected to cloud. It take cares about that. It take cares about your devices like your PLCs, your DCS system, your controllers, even your field devices. It takes care about what's going on there. If any anomaly is detected, it's going to definitely alert you, and it's going to help you to know what's going on wrong in your system. So I would highly recommend you to watch and get in information. Information is really available everywhere. Nozomi Guardian. It's one of the things that is one of the best solutions that is possible in this current time, along with some other solutions which are really it's really impossible to talk about every OT cybersecurity solutions because it's really complex. Otherwise, half of the people will hit your head to some of the walls. I don't want that. So we will continue with the next question. What knowledge can I acquire to become a master as an automation engineer? So, Mr. Paul, you want to take it or you want me to take on that question?
Sure, I'll take on this one. So to become an expert in automation, really, like Numan was saying, you want to pick up the base knowledge of Allen Bradley, Schneider systems, kind of the different protocols, Profibus, the different systems that are used. That's kind of the base knowledge. Really, from a commissioning perspective, another huge advantage is that not necessarily specializing in one specific piece, but to kind of know a little bit about everything. When you're talking about the automation system, it's connected to everything in the plant, all the mechanical systems, all the electrical systems, everything. So while you may specialize in the automation component, you still need to know a little bit about mechanical of pipes, valves, instruments, calibration, and devices and how they're used in the field, the electrical systems and how you're monitoring low voltage systems, distribution systems, high voltage systems. There's a little bit to know about everything to really make you that world-class automation commissioning engineer to to have that knowledge of kind of all the different pieces and understand how the components function at a system level, not just kind of at an end device level, but how does everything function together so that you know actually what's going on in the logic and can help to troubleshoot some of the systems. Was there anything you would add to that, Naman?
I think that's perfect. That's perfect answer. All you have to do is you have to start with one thing. What I'm seeing is people are jumping into different things, like they start working on maybe instrumentation. They have just studied maybe one or two topics and they want to jump into PLCs. So that's not something that I would recommend you. Start with one thing and forget about everything else. Like I see those people are a big failure in the industry, are those students which are newcomers and want to get into the automation. They have zero patience level. That's not required. You need to be focused on one thing at one time. And for instance, you start working with instrumentation. Ideally, you should start from process. You start from process, learn it. Maybe if you're interested to learn or get a job in oil and gas, then you have to learn oil and gas process. If you're interested to learn and join any industry related to power, then you have to understand the process of power system. If you want to join any chemical industry, you have to understand the process of that. Then to control a process, you need instrumentation and controllers. First of all, you have to understand the instrumentation, and then you have to give next jump to PLC. At least you should have a basic knowledge about process and instrumentation to get into PLC. Otherwise, it would be really complex for you to handle the jobs. Then next step is you have to understand the DCS systems. Then, if not, then you can start working with HMIs and then SCADA and then DCS. That's the way to go. But along with that information, you have to understand Modbus protocols, DNP3 protocols, Profibus, Profinet, all protocols which exist, like MQTT, OPC UA. These all things are really future of the industry, and it's really important to acquire that knowledge. And once you are master of everything, then believe me, you would be not calling everybody to give you a job. You would not be begging anybody. You would be actually sitting at your home and people will be chasing you. It happens to me. It happens to all, like even the Paul is now, leading his company, and he have appearance worldwide. He's giving webinars to different universities and different companies and different associations on that. So how it happens, it all started from one topic, and then next, and then next, and then next. Don't jump here and there. This is one of my advice to you to become an expert in automation. I just want to add that along with the advices that actually, Mr. Paul already shared. So there is another question. I'm an electronics engineer. I've done work in automation, also have a quite interest in it. Now I have to update work with IIoT side. So what is the roadmap? You want to take on that question, Mr. Paul?
For sure, yeah. It sounds like you have some really good technical background to build upon. So specializing in more of the specific technical skills, kind of like I said earlier, was that you may not get those specific technical skills from an institution, from say like a university or college organization. To get those specialized skills, you really want to seek that out online to take that next level of training, that very detailed and specific training online to perfect your skills in the direction that you want to go.
Yeah, and that we have aligned things, and it's just people now. It was a past when people are scared to join in online courses. In the COVID era, everybody wants like something that can be actually some learning opportunity that can be done from home. And why not? If in the case you got in a mentor to help you, what's best for you? He would be guiding you. If you would be doing mistakes or some silly things, he would be right away with you to correct you. And that's that's not something or someone who is layman or a newcomer. The person is experienced. So we have a team of people who are experienced, who are working in different big projects in domain of IIoT, OT cybersecurity, and DCS systems and automation like PLCs and HMI and SCADA as well. So for sure you can join. There are limited slots, but I'm not here to actually today advertise too much about that, because today is all about, we would be talking about OT cybersecurity. Mr. Paul is launching some courses about OT cybersecurity also. I would highly recommend you to have a look at that. And I have not started because I have some compliance issues, to be honest, not talk about some of the stuff which I have to do with my consultancy stuff. That's why I'm putting up information related to that. But very soon I would be out of that contract and I would be sharing all that sort of my core information with you guys as well. So I'm seeing you guys are really not putting in like button. You're not disturbing any dislike button. Why? What happens? You have to disturb this like button to show that you're there and you're liking this live sessions. Okay, I would recommend if you can disturb this like button, hit it, please. If you don't like it, then you have to dislike it. But being silent is a crime. Okay, so very informative lecture. Thank you so much for taking time and spreading knowledge. I had some of their procedure. I would like to have this certificate. Okay, we would provide you certificate if in the case you follow all the 4 steps. Step 1, you have to be here till the end. Step 2, you have to actually be a subscriber and turns your notification on. Step 3, you have to actually be a follower on Instagram, and Instagram information is already provided into description of the video. Step 4 is to have a registration link, which is already provided into the description. You have to complete the sign up process for that in order to get a free slides for today. And also along with that, you would get a certificate for sure. So moving on to the next thing. I am a new learner. How I can learn from your end. Okay, if you, I think Mr. Paul, if you want to take on that question, that would be great.
For sure, yeah. So from a commissioning perspective, anyone with a technical background is a great addition to the commissioning team. The commissioning really needs kind of everybody's best knowledge from mechanical, electrical, automation perspective, because there's lots of components of complex systems today. So anybody with a background knowledge is encouraged to join commissioning, encouraged to get involved in automation systems and to become more familiar with these systems. Then to take that next step in specialized training, there's some really great opportunities to do that. A lot of commissioning comes from experience as well. Having that hands-on experience in the field is hugely valuable. Like Numan was saying earlier, when you've worked on these projects and you can see some of them function from oil and gas process or chemical process, power process, whatever, they become familiar and have that background only adds even more to the knowledge that you have, that you need in order to commission these systems from both a functional process perspective as well as from a functional automation perspective.
What are the best resources to learn PLC from scratch?
So I'll let you take that one, Noman. Maybe you can share some knowledge on kind of the detailed systems that you share from like a Schneider, Allen Bradley, or other systems out there, and where that base knowledge comes from.
We have already a complete playlist related to SM1200 PLC and SM300 PLC. So you got in, if in the case you are not willing to pay and you want to learn it by yourself, we have actually a complete list named as PLC training step by step. If in the case you are interested, you have to watch that playlist. Go ahead, explore that YouTube channel, and you will find a playlist named as PLC training step by step, which have a lot of sessions. So if in the case you are interested to get in a free training, this is the way. If in the case you are interested to get in a paid training, I'm gonna share my WhatsApp number here. You have to just this is not my WhatsApp number, which is actually our official WhatsApp number. So you have to do simplest one step. You have to send a message on that, and rest of the thing, our headman will guide you how to enroll in our training. So this is the WhatsApp number. You can just have a look at that. That's in the chat right now. So the next question I have, I work in, I work in district, cooling plant as an automation engineer. I would like to know how to secure my plant hourly readings of operation to get hamper. You want to take on that question?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you can be rephrased.
Okay, it's saying that he's working in one of the plant as an automation engineer. He would like to know how to secure my plant hourly readings of operation to get hamper. You understand the point?
Not really. Maybe I'll let you take that one if you do.
He's saying that how to secure my plant's hourly reading of operation. This is one of the, really, it's not a clear question, to be honest, from my end as well. So if you, Mubashir, if you can elaborate that question, what's your, are you kidding because you want to maybe get in hamper? So we can provide you that hamper. Okay, so if you can elaborate that question would be great. Maybe I'm not getting it 100%. Is there any certification which is at, a SANS ICS certification and is less expensive? There are different certifications that are available in OT cybersecurity domain. I would share one of the video in coming days. What are the key certifications that you should look into that? And one thing is, like, people really don't want to pay. Why you guys don't want to pay? You have paid, a lot of money to institutions. Like you were in universities, you're trying to get in information, and when it comes to real job, you're struggling. You know that you're not able to get it because people are asking you the skills, and you're not willing to pay. Invest on yourself because it's really going to be a big thing. The moment you will get that information, the moment you will get in that value of that particular thing of investing on yourself, then your life would be different. So don't worry at all. Even you have to borrow from someone, you have to invest, because this will again return. This would return whatever investment you have put in to the certification and different other courses. That is going to really return back to you. What do you say about that, Mr. Paul?
I agree. Yeah, some of the commissioning positions on the project, some of the automation positions, cybersecurity positions. These are some of the highest paid positions on the project, and to have that skill set opens those doors for you. That the opportunities that exist, like the man said, that these skill sets are in such short demand that people are chasing anyone that has these types of skill sets down to have them work on their projects, because it's such a specialized field and specialized knowledge that getting that specific knowledge opens up so many opportunities for people, and I can only encourage you to pursue it even more.
Thank you so much, Paul. I think anything, if in the case you want to add in right now, and then I would be talking about some of the steps for people who wanted to get a certificate and how you will get it. So I will elaborate that. If anything else you want to say and sum up today's session.
For sure, I just want to say that commissioning specialists are in high demand. The projects are only getting more and more complicated, that the world needs more commissioning specialists. The world needs automation specialists, cybersecurity specialists, that there's just so much demand, and the commissioning industry really needs, the projects industry really as a whole needs more people involved in these specialized skill sets so that we can deliver today's projects. Without the necessary skill sets, I can see projects struggling to find the right people to complete projects, to complete them on time and to complete them on budget, and more importantly, to meet the owner's needs when it comes to these complex projects. That the world needs more specialists, and I just encourage you to pursue whatever interests you from a commissioning, from an automation perspective, getting into cybersecurity, because it's in such demand worldwide, and we really need to get some more people involved in this specialized aspect of projects.
Thank you, Paul. So I would be ending the session with some of the things which are really important. There are 4 steps if in the case you want to get in a certificate. Step number 1, like, because I'm seeing a lot of people are actually interested about certificate. So I want to add a few very important steps. First of all, you have to be subscriber, turn your notification on. Those people who are watching this session from the start to the end, and then you have to actually make sure that you are a follower on Instagram. I will make sure all the steps. If in the case anybody is missing anything, he will not be entitled for the certificate. And we would work on that to we would make it transparent. And the very important thing, which is very most important step, is to actually sign up onto the link which is provided into description of this live. Okay, and at the end of this live, I might update it onto the announcement video as well. And one thing I would suggest you is to hit this like button if you like today's live webinar. Then this would be a really important and motivation for us. So then one and very important thing is, I would wish you, everyone who are interested to get in information with related to OT cybersecurity, you guys can watch and Mr. Paul's website, which is provided here, commissioning.vip. So if in the case you watch it, you would be definitely, if you visit it regularly, you would be notified when he's going to put in his course on OT cybersecurity. I'm not doing anything related to OT cybersecurity yet, although my job is in that domain, but I'm bound due to some of the my contracts which I have done with different companies. So I'm not able to actually share that information either on this YouTube channel or anywhere else. Might be in future, but right now you can avail that opportunity related to commissioning from Mr. Paul's website. And all those folks who are interested to get in information related to PLC, DCS, SCADA, and HMI and industrial protocols, you can definitely connect on a WhatsApp number, which is provided into this comments also, and I will post it into the description of the video also when this live ends. So with that, I really want to thank each and everybody, especially Mr. Paul Turner, for sparing your moments and your time and had a wonderful discussion again. And I would love to see you again related to some of the other topics that are still missing. We have a lot of topics which are in line, so we would have these sort of informative sessions in coming days as well. So a good thing that you will get at the end of this training is you would be getting in webinar certificate, you would get a copy of slides, and you will get in 3 days mini course if in the case you follow all the steps. And I already shared all the steps. Over to Mr. Paul to summarize this particular webinar.
Yeah, thanks again, Noman. It's a great platform that you've created here, and it's a great opportunity to share some commissioning knowledge with your audience. There's lots of topics we can discuss for sure, available for a chat anytime. So great participation, great questions. Thanks for the opportunity. And I hope everybody found this discussion informative on this complex topic of cybersecurity, and to follow it further and to seek out more information on how you can specialize in this.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, again. And all those people who are actually not able to get their question answered, although we had many questions which we are not able to answer because I have another live mentorship class plans after this session. So I'm bound to leave, and also Mr. Paul have some activities to do after this. So with that, we would end up today's session with the hope that you gain some information from this session. And along with that, you would get in a certificate also. I wish you best of luck, and don't forget to share that certificate on LinkedIn. If you would tag Mr. Paul and IT and Automation Academy on my profile, if you're connected, then it would be great. If in the case you get in certificate, please share it on your LinkedIn and share, at least tag Mr. Paul, because you have done and shared a lot of information. If you don't tag me, it's fine, but please tag Mr. Paul to show your thanks, to show your support to Mr. Paul's effort today. Thanks again. If you like this video, consider hitting the like button. If this is a live training, actually, if you like this, consider hitting the like button. If in the case you haven't subscribed this YouTube channel, consider subscribing. And until next video, take care and Allah Hafiz.